Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, The Rise and Decline of Mass Email Campaigns' Influence on Congressional Decisions. This is a presentation of the Congressional Management Foundation as part of our program, The Partnership for a More Perfect Union. My name is Brad Fitch. I'm President and CEO of the Congressional Management Foundation, and I'm joined here today by our Director of Citizen Engagement, Seth Turner. It's a citizen engagement training program to provide you with services, information, PowerPoint slides, reports, all the data that can help you train and educate your citizen advocates. Let's jump into the meat of today's program and start with the rise of mass email campaigns. Constituent mail workflow really hasn't changed significantly in the last 40 to 50 years. This is generally how things have been for years on Capitol Hill. And I know, Seth, you wanted to comment on this.
I was a person who was behind a lot of email campaigns over the course of my career. We'd look at the reports, the data and how successful was the campaign, open rates, click-through rates, how many letters did we send. There's a whole process that gets triggered when that letter ends up getting to the congressional office. And that's what we're here to talk to you about is how that actually affects the congressional office and how that ends up making your campaign influential or not.
We think we are seeing the decline of mass email campaigns. We did a survey last year of congressional legislative correspondents, and one of the questions we asked them went like this. If your member has not arrived at a firm decision on an issue, approximately how many form email messages from constituents does it take for your office to consider taking the action requested? You really have to generate over 100, but look at what happens when you personalize the message. Look at the big difference on the influence, because we asked a follow-up question right after this one, and it went like this. If your member has not arrived at a firm decision on an issue, approximately how many personalized email messages from constituents does it take for your office to consider taking the action requested?
But this slide really is the one that just really got my attention. We were not generating 50, let alone 100 emails per congressional office. And so we were spending all that time, all that money. What would I have spent that time and money on to have more effect and more influence?
You have to change your strategy and invest, as Seth said, more of an effort on coaching your people. If we are indeed experiencing the end of identical form email messages as an effective advocacy tool, where do we go? Let's start with what Congress needs to know. What do members of Congress want to know from their interactions with constituents? Said by one legislative correspondent, less copy and pasted messages and more original pieces that connect a constituent's personal story or motivations for writing with a specific issue, problem, or piece of legislation.
We actually have a training program specifically on how to develop an effective advocacy story.
So what is Congress looking for? What do they want? Well, we asked in our legislative correspondence survey a question that we never asked before. We were basically saying, what do you want grassroots organizations to do? And this is what came up at the top of the list. In-person meetings are the easiest way for staff to understand an issue because it gives us a chance to ask questions and put a face on the issue. The first recommendation we're going to make is this. Organizations should embrace relationship building as a metric for success to augment other measurements. What you want to move to is relationship-based metrics. What are we talking about here? Well, how many constituents of key lawmakers are actively engaged with the lawmakers? How often are our members meeting and or substantively communicating with us? Our next recommendation is pretty straightforward, but I would have to say probably the most important recommendation that we've developed at CMF for effective grassroots advocacy, and it's going to be really basic. Organizations should invest time to teach citizen advocates.